A billion-dollar deal sees locally based energy giant Sol changing hands. 70 outstanding University of the West Indies alumni honored. And a monster hurricane slams into the Florida Panhandle.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
A very good evening to you with a Wednesday, October 10th edition of the CBC Evening News. I'm Ryan Broom in our top story. A major development in the local and regional energy sector tonight. A Canadian-based company has acquired majority share interests of Sol Investments Limited, the parent company of Sol. The deal is worth more than $1 billion.
Parkland Fuel Corporation, known as Canada's largest and one of North America's fastest growing independent marketers of fuel and petroleum products and a leading convenience store operator, has acquired a 75% stake in Sol Investments Limited, or SIL, in what is being described as a business combination agreement. The transaction will result in Parkland acquiring 75% of the issued and outstanding shares in the capital of SIL for a total consideration of US $1.21 billion, plus customary post-closing adjustments on a cash-free and debt-free basis. Meanwhile, Sol Limited will acquire 12.16 million common shares in the capital of Parkland as part of the deal. Commenting on the agreement, founder of Sol Limited, Sir Kiffin Simpson, said he was exceptionally pleased with the agreement. He said it will ensure an exciting and dynamic future for everyone. Sir Kiffin added that he has been tremendously impressed with Parkland's president and CEO, Bob Espy's strong leadership, along with his exceptional management team. Among some of the other key highlights of the deal, Parkland now has the addition of stable earnings from 526 retail stations in the Caribbean. It also provides an opportunity to roll out Parkland's private label, loyalty, and enhanced food offer. It positions Parkland to access supply at scale in the U.S. Gulf Coast, creating future growth opportunities and supply advantage in the U.S. Gulf and Atlantic coast for Parkland USA. Meanwhile, the Sol operating brands will remain in place in Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean, and the Sol business will retain key management and continue to be managed from the Caribbean. Also, as part of the deal, the remaining 25% of the shares outstanding in SIL are subject to the minority purchase or sale right. Parkland may elect to acquire those shares, or Sol Limited may elect to sell the remaining shares in the capital of SIL.
And the names of 70 outstanding alumni of the University of the West Indies now adorn the Cave Hill campus. This morning, dignitaries and leaders from across the region graced the quadrangle on the main campus for the ceremony to honor the exceptional scholars. Our Shane Jones was there.
Two plaques bearing 70 names, including 5 who are deceased, were unveiled as part of the university's 70th anniversary celebrations. Under the theme, 70 Years of Service, 70 Years of Leadership, the regional institution recognized 70 of its highest achievers, including Barbadian Governor-General Dame Sandra Mason, Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson, former Prime Ministers the Honourable Tillman Thomas of Grenada, the Right Honourable Frendel Stewart, the late David Thompson, accepted by his wife Mara Thompson, former Bishop Dr. John Holder, and Barbados Workers' Union General Secretary Senator Tony Moore. Honorary and Principal Professor Eudine Barato says while 70 names have been singled out, the university remains proud of and values all of its graduates.
They are standing on platforms where they are not only ambassadors of their respective home countries, but poised as ambassadors of the UWI and the Caribbean. Among them are prime ministers, presidents, governors general, chief justices, judges, educators, trade unionists, clerics, musicians, medics, artists, entrepreneurs, housewives, and activists. Make no mistake, our graduates reach deep into the social fabric of this country and every country in the region.
Former St. Lucia Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony says by shaping the minds of the honorees, the university has directly molded the region.
I have witnessed many a conversation between and among prime ministers making very difficult decisions, and often on reference has had to be made to the collective vision that we share and the institution that has shaped us over the last few years.
The University of the West Indies was founded in 1948. Shane Jones, CBC News.
Thanks, Shane. Well, a wellness revolution is needed in Barbados to combat the scourge of NCDs. And Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic intends to lead the charge. His steps include proposing a cabinet subcommittee on NCDs and intensive public education promotions.
One of the key areas I intend to explore is the use of taxes obtained from tobacco, alcohol, and empty calorie soft drinks to fund efforts across the health sector in promoting wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a need for a wellness revolution in Barbados. And if you think that I'm being militant by saying revolution, then we have to be militant in promoting wellness.
Now, the Health Minister was speaking at the Farmer Wellness Conference this morning at Solidarity House. General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Senator Tony Moore, also attended the event. She says the workers need to be educated about wellness.
The Barbados Workers Union is of the view that workers must be taught how to lead healthy lives, and they must be shown how to avoid the behaviors that cause the risk of chronic disease. These lessons must be practiced, but more so, we must seek to reinforce them.
Meanwhile, the Health Minister is clearing the air about the crackdown on childhood obesity. He says it's not his intention to make vendors unemployed, but simply to encourage them to sell healthier items for students.
It is collaborating with vendors, working with the Ministry of Education and the schools, working with parents and their children and the students, so that we can get our children eating more healthy things and reducing the intake of unhealthy stuff. So all that's required then, as long as we can get the children to eat healthy things like fruit sometimes instead of some of the snacks that they are currently eating, it means that the same vendors can still make a living by selling healthy things.
3 years after its start, the Farmer Wellness Program continues to have a positive impact on its participants. Presenting data findings for 500 members for 2016 to 2017, endocrinologist Dr. Carol L. Goddard said the program helped to reduce cases of diabetes, blood pressure, and obesity in workplaces.
At the start, 197 patients without blood pressure. At the end, 219. Those within the study, 104 with uncontrolled hypertension. Look at the beauty. By the end of the intervention, only 77 persons' blood pressure was uncontrolled. Isn't that a beautiful thing for Farmer Wellness?
And CEO of Farmer Wellness International, Lennox Prescott, says there are plans to expand the program beyond Barbados.
With the new app that we have, we'll be able to, hopefully by the second half of next year, have Farmer Wellness in one of the Caribbean countries. We have a number of countries who are interested and companies, and we're going to do that because it's transparent. You just key the data in, comes here, sends it back to you, and you pay us. And Barbados makes some money.
In other news, the Commerce Minister says there's more than enough evidence to prove farmers who join cooperatives can reap many benefits. And that's one of the pieces of advice which Dwight Sutherland has for them as he tours and meets principals from several cooperatives across the island. The CBC caught up with Mr. Sutherland earlier today as he toured the St. George Farmers Market Co-op Society Limited in the Glebe, as well as the Pig Farmers Co-op in Tweedside Road.
I am pushing for small businesses who are engaged in agriculture, crop production, and poultry production to become part of the co-ops, whereby they can leverage their own business in terms of accessing finance, in terms of getting their products to market, and in terms of receiving dividends and indeed profit sharing. This is very critical to building out the Barbados economy, and also to provide food for people.
And Mr. Sutherland says a lack of space is one of the biggest challenges for the co-op based at the Glebe, but he adds that they're exploring a solution.
They're seeking to partner with the Anglican Church because they are situated on the grounds owned by the Anglican Church, and talks are in train already to see how best they can expand and indeed offer a wider range of produce.
Barbados has signed its first readiness grant agreement with the Green Climate Fund, or GCF. The signing ceremony was held in the margins of the ongoing GCF's Global National Designated Authority and Private Investment for Climate Conferences in South Korea. The GCF readiness programs help countries organize to better access climate financing. Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Marsha Cattle, inked the agreement on behalf of the country. Government will receive an initial $300,000 in grant financing from the GCF, and this will enable access to $1 million annually for improving Barbados' engagement with the fund. Minister Cattle stressed Barbados' survival depends not only on local but also international action.
We saw the severe flooding that took place after Tropical Storm Kirk, and this was not even from the storm itself, but this was from the severe rainfall, the high precipitation that followed. Investments in climate resilience are going to mean for Barbados that households and communities are better prepared for these kinds of events and are better able to recover in the event that there are disasters that affect homes and communities. So we are doing our part. We now need the global community to follow through on the Paris Agreement, because following this last Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, we realized that small islands were right to insist in the Paris Agreement on limiting warming to 1.5 degrees.
Now, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, which is the GCF National Designated Authority in Barbados, has already commenced the development of further readiness proposals in that regard, and the country will be drawing down additional resources in 2019. Tapping into emerging sectors found in the green, blue, and orange economies may provide additional lifelines for Barbados and other regional countries. That's the view of the Principal and Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies Cayfield campus, Professor Udine Barreto. She was speaking at the Global Financial Crisis Economic Symposium last evening at the Cayfield School of Business.
Our economic recovery must be firmly rooted in the yet untapped potential of the green economy, Professor Moore, the nascent blue economy, and the emerging orange economy, the latter which offers much hope to the established and budding creative talent in our midst. These new or emerging economic sectors must seize whatever opportunities that are available through the revolution in blockchain technologies, artificial intelligence, and other IT platforms.
As it moves to further develop its coconut industry, Barbados must ensure sanitary and phytosanitary measures are in place. And Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Indar Weir believes there's a need to create a space for these vendors. His comments came during one of the sessions at the ongoing Caribbean Week of Agriculture at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center. Mr. Weir says given the health benefits of coconuts, there's potential for the coconut water.
We cannot rule out the health value of the coconut as well. We all know that the coconut water is low in calories, high in potassium, but at the same time is healthy. And if we seek to introduce healthy eating practices and a holistic lifestyle, especially in our school feeding programs, then here's an opportunity for us to give, instead of a drink loaded in sugar, an opportunity to provide our children with a fresh, cold glass of coconut water, which would do many more things than create NCDs among our young population.
Now, one after product of the industry is the coconut shell. Minister Weir sees potential for use of the shells once crushed.
And our local vendors, the Vendors Association, Barven, will be given an opportunity to use a machine which is currently being tested and discussed to crush the coconut shells so that we don't have the unsightly conditions that we see after the use of the coconut, where shells are left along the sideway and along the highways of Barbados. But that if they can be given an opportunity to crush those shells, then there is another opportunity for the value chain. But we do understand also that in horticultural agriculture, the coconut shell can be used.
A suggestion tonight that police and customs officers should be among the list of public officials governed by integrity legislation. This was among recommendations from former independent Senator Orlando Marvel, presented at the 4th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on the Integrity in Public Life Bill 2018.
I don't think it is a matter of rank in the police force. It is a matter of situation. In other words, if a policeman of whatever stature is dealing with drugs, there's a possibility of corruption. If he's dealing with drugs and guns, let's say, and that terrifies me. In the case of customs officers, I'm afraid I don't know what to say. You know, there's possible corruption at practically any level where somebody is in a situation able to release goods.
However, opposition Senator Caswell Franklin disagrees.
A lot of our problem in Barbados is enforcement, you know. Not necessarily another piece of legislation, it is enforcement. So I think we already have too many people in this integrity of public life thing already. And I don't think we should need to expand it to customs, police. And next thing you're going to hear, if you don't pay the firemen something, you're going to let your house burn down. You know, this thing is going too far now. We want to get the politicians who have been taking bribes for years, forever and ever and ever and ever, starting in here, coming in here as paupers and living as multimillionaires. That's what we want to deal with, you know.
In his submission, former Member of Parliament Mark Williams contended the bill's titles and provisions should be expanded to address individuals from the private sector.
We cannot have a legislation that deals mainly with the public sector. We have to have the Barbados Integrity Bill 2018. And I say that to say this, that the bill must spread over the private sector and the public sector. That the private sector is just as evil or more evil for contaminating the public sector, and they should not be running scotch-free.
On the other hand, the Bar Association, represented by Kay Williams, suggested the inclusion of stronger penalties and the limiting of the power of arrest given to the Commission's investigative officers.
The view of the Barbados Bar Association is that the power of arrest must be subject to the requirement that an investigative officer obtain a warrant from a magistrate. In the alternative, the power of arrest set out by the bill should remain the preserve of the Royal Barbados Police Force, preferably of high rank, as there are constitutional responsibilities concomitant with the role of a police officer and the execution of an arrest.